We are the wise and wicked crones. Got no time for lies, no time for casting stones. Wise and wicked, no time for fears or prevarications. Wise and wicked, gonna rise among the nations. Crones are gonna spread our wisdom around the nations. We are the wise and wicked crones. Wise and wicked crones.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Leea.
Hi, Peggy. Good afternoon. How are you?
Excellent. How are you today?
I am A-okay. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of Wise and Wicked Crones.
I'm inclined to sometimes call us the wild and wicked crones, but
I did that last week when I was editing for YouTube. I actually did put wild and wicked, and then I corrected it, but then I missed one place, and anyway, someone else said, "Hey, by the way."
No, so I keep thinking, I have to double check. Are we wise or are we wild? But then we should be wise and wild and wicked crones. So there you go.
Wise, wild, and wicked. So it sounds like a theme park.
So before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that this event is being recorded on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee people. And I also want to remind you, before I forget, that if you like what you see, please like and subscribe to our podcast. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, please feel free to go to our Facebook page, Wise and Wicked Crones, and join our group. We do ask one simple question before we let you in. That's just to make sure that we're not getting any bots in there. And whatever. So again, please, and certainly tell your friends. We really want to grow this particular group.
Yes, we do, because there are a number of us out there.
Quite a number of us, indeed. Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Leea Nutson. I am a widow. I am a mother. I am a grandmother, although I call myself Mima. I'm a political wonk. I'm a rabid knitter. I'm a yoga enthusiast. Actually, I'm also a workout enthusiast. And I am a dog lover. I have 2 dogs, and I really like to drink fine wine.
Oh, and I'm Peggy Sample, also known as Margarett. So I answer to both, but I feel more like a Peggy these days, which is something to do, I think, with embracing my crondom and my inner child. I'm not sure. In any case, I have been a daughter, a sister, a mother, a friend, a lover, a wife. I have children who are adults now. And I've worked as many, many, many things over the years and have experienced a lot. And I've learned from it all. I really believe I've learned from it all. So that's the whole bit. I could double up on a number of the things Leea said, including the yoga, including the fine wine. And nature's so big, right?
It
So,
is.
yeah.
It is indeed. Nature is all around us. We do have a mission statement, which I'm going to read. It is our combined. We have accumulated over a century of learning and life experiences. Our mission is to bring you thought-provoking, interesting, and often humorous wisdom that will enhance your life and enlighten your spirit. Nothing is sacred. This is a frank look at life and an open space for discussion, and we welcome you into our worlds.
Yes, we do. And I will just do a little sidebar that our world right now includes me waiting for a phone call from my doctor's office as they try to find a ENT specialist appointment for me. That's not the end of August. This is being recorded in mid-July. And I can talk about that or not later. But anyway, if my phone rings, I will leave and come back. So Leea will entertain you if that happens. But you know how it could be, they might not call me till 7 o'clock tonight. So
who knows? It's a mystery, these things.
it is a mystery.
I also want to express that the opinions, or also want to say rather, that the opinions expressed in this episode are our own. You may disregard what you hear, and that's fine. Feel free to disregard what we say and move on to the next. We wish you the best of life, love, and happiness. And something else I was going to add that I thought about after our last discussion, or our last episode rather, was because you had talked about the meaning of the words, but we forgot with Crones, there's also another meaning, which is cronies, which is friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? You guys might be able to tell that Leea and I are cronies. We've known each other for, we figure, about 25 years, maybe
Yeah, give or
longer.
take. I don't know.
I don't know.
At least that long, indeed. At least that long for sure. So
and
yeah.
we've really gotten to know each other in the last few years. We always liked each other. But you know those people that you know you should be friends with, but you don't always get to spend time with them, and then it happens, and it's so cool.
It is cool. And part of it's the miracle of technology, because we do live a couple hours apart. So the fact that we can Zoom and on the Zoom when it works, that is, and we can talk on various platforms has really, really been very, very, very helpful. So we always like to start our episodes here with Peggy reading one of the cards from one of her oracle decks, and she is going to pull a card for us now.
And this will just give us a little bit of a focus or an oversight on what's the energy around. Just waiting for one to jump. There it is. Ooh, Shaman of Wands. So a shaman is a wise person who is a healer. Shaman of Wands is about creativity, spirituality, passion. This is the person who they're fun, but they are grounded and sensual and experienced. This is someone that you can trust. In the Mother Peace deck, shamans take the place of kings, but shamans can be male or female in tradition. So it's a great card. So that wisdom, folks, creativity, spirituality, passion is all part of it. And our topic for today, I really did have this one jump. I did not pre-select it.
They jump. Yeah, our topic today is about purpose. We're going to talk about life purpose. And over the course of the episodes that we are going to put together, we are going to cover a variety of topics. Some of them will be much lighter, some will be much heavier, but we figured that this one would be kind of a good one to kind of lead into everything that's going to be following. I have been reading extensively, as you can see by the little post-it notes, this book called Haggitude by Sharon Blackie, and it's got a lot of really great thought-provoking information and insights into it. So I'm gonna read a couple passages here, but basically, what we're going to talk about again is purpose. What is our purpose in life? Purposes, now they do change as we go through the various stages of our life. And she's got a wonderful passage here. She's actually quoting a Jungian psychologist. So what she says is, we move through life in continual moving adjustments, not following some grand predestined design. It's also important to understand that here the journey really is all. Most of us don't come to understand our calling until later in life, because uncovering it is a lifetime's work. And even after we have arrived at what we think is our destination, we're still not at the end of our quest, because the ways in which our calling manifests itself will continue to shift through the years. The purpose of life is continuous transformation. We're not here to turn to stone. So, sorry, were you?
Oh, I was just going to say that Leea and I were talking one day about purpose, and mine was very simple, and where it has changed how I go about the action on it. It's like my purpose in life is to spread light, whether that's being funny, whether that's loving, whether that's healing, whatever, however. And it does change. It's like you get to a destination, you go, oh, now I can go here. But that's kind of my overriding. And Leea, then you were saying, right?
So Yeah, so I'm going to just tell a little bit of the story because I have always been a very goal-oriented, very purpose-driven person. So, many years ago, where Peggy and I met was actually in Party Light, and I had the great privilege to be a vice president with the organization, and it was a job that I absolutely loved, and a wonderful position, but it was extraordinarily stressful. So what was happening was I was getting to a point in my life, and I will never forget it. It was funny. I remember the date. The date was August 27th, but
Mm.
the year, it's either 2003, 2004. It's kind of hazy in my memory here. But I was coming to a really difficult point in my personal life and in my career because my organization was starting to collapse. I had literally had 7 leaders quit in one day, and that's impossible for any vice president pretty well to sustain an organization and then to develop that many leaders quickly enough to keep your organization going. So that was happening. My sons were older and they were getting ready to leave home. And my purpose through all my years in Party Light was kind of twofold. One was to support my children and help them, get into adulthood, and to ensure that my daughter, who is severely multiply disabled or other abled, as we like to say, was going to be in a good place. So that was my one purpose, to get these kids to semi-adulthood. The other purpose that was driving me was to really help the women in my organization fulfill their ultimate potential, because I wanted them to have the same journey of success that I had in Party Light. And I had enormous success in Party Light, and it still remains one of the absolute best things that ever happened to me, by far, best experience. So, but it was now, these two things were coming to an end. Plus, I had had a very long and very turbulent marriage, and it was going through some really difficult changes at that particular point. And so I got to this date of this August 27th, and I thought to myself, I have nothing left. It's gone. My purpose, everything. And I have never felt so hopeless and lost until it happened again later, which I will talk about. But it was the most horrible, horrible feeling that I didn't have a direction anymore. So anyways, so that fall, everything was kind of starting to collapse, but there was a vice president's conference in Whistler, and I had told the vice president of Party Light that I probably shouldn't go because I was losing my RVP status. And she said, no, go anyways, because she was hoping, I think, that it would invigorate me. So it was really a good experience. And during that time, those few days there, I started to put my brain back together. And I really remember we were in a bus leaving from Whistler, going back to the airport in Vancouver. And I started to think, because the best times for me are when I have these quiet moments when I can think really hard. And I realized that, I have value. I have strength. I can do things. And I started to recharge my inner battery, get my life back under control. I hitherto have, like I said, I've always been a very much in control, so much so that when I was a teenager, I was anorexic. And if you know anything about anorexia nervosa, it's got nothing to do with weight loss and everything to do with control. So I started to regain control of my life, regain control of my inner strength, and remind myself of the value that I had. So, things went on. I lost my RVP, my relationship, my marriage fell apart, certainly. But I was building myself back up again, my inner worth. And then, I ended up meeting Bob, and we, all I can say is like an absolutely amazing relationship that we had. And so then I had a new purpose. My purpose, because the boys were getting on. We had found a residence for Bergen to go into, and she was actually 28 when she went in. And Bob and I were building this amazing, beautiful, almost perfect life. We had our nice home here in Markham. We had a beautiful weekend house, and because Bob was a professor, we had lots of time to spend at the weekend house. And so the place in Markham was just basically, you know, was sort of like a hotel. We would think of it, because all the major things and holidays we wanted to spend at the weekend house. And it was absolutely amazing. So my purpose became to take care of Bob, to provide him with, and not that he needed taking care of, but I wanted to give him a beautiful life. I wanted us to have a wonderful life full of music and books and friends and family and a beautiful home and great food and interesting things. Like, I wanted to create this wonderful, beautiful life for him. And that, it was really joyful. It was certainly the happiest time in my whole life. And then things happened, and cancer came along, not to me, but to Bob. And we dealt with it for 4 years. And it was funny because after he had a very extremely rare form of thyroid cancer, which is really bizarre because I've been on thyroid meds literally for over 50 years. Anyways, he gets this thyroid cancer, but it's such a rare cancer. There's maybe 150 cases in Canada a year, and there's really no treatment for it other than the surgery. So they removed his thyroid. And I remember Bob saying to the surgeon, "I can't believe I have cancer." And the surgeon said, "You don't. It's gone now. You're fine." But that feeling never, I always had the fear in the back of my mind. And I always had this niggling feeling that something terrible was going to happen. And then sure enough, cancer reared its ugly head again. In the last year of his life, he went just right downhill. So being
And
the pragmatic,
your purpose at that point was still really focused on creating the best that you could for the two of you, right?
well, then it became creating the best death for him.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to give him the best death that I can. And I'm going to make sure that it's peaceful as it can be with whatever challenge. And make no mistake, cancer is a violent disease.
Yeah.
You know, it's a violent disease. It does terrible things to you in so many ways. It's a violent disease, as far as I'm concerned. Other people may have a different experience, but anybody that I've been close to who's gone through cancer, it to me, it's a violent, you know, it's a cancer. But as I said, I'm very pragmatic. So I sat down and I thought to myself, you're going to lose your mind once he's gone. So you need to think about what is going to carry you through to the next phase of your life. So I remember I sat down and I wrote up a list of about 100 things that I could do once he was gone. Not because I was wanting him to go and doing these things, but I had to have these things to pull me through because I needed the focus. I needed a purpose. Okay, so then he passed, and and it'll be 6 years in the end of August, and it's taken me for so long to find. I have not been able to find my real purpose. I haven't been able to find that kind of joy and purpose, and even though I'm very, very busy, I do a lot of different things. And we're not going to talk about politics in our series, but I'm heavily involved in politics and have been for about 10 years. I'm involved in another organization. I spend at least 5 hours a day knitting. Like, I'm a crazy person. I have dogs. I do a lot of stuff. I have a full life. And so where I'm going with this is that anyway, so what ended up happening was I had a very short conversation with Peggy just after or around our last episode. And then I realized when we talked about purpose and what her purpose was, then I realized that the mistake that I had made was my purpose was always in thinking of an end result product for my effort. And I realized that my purpose, what I am a warrior. And my purpose is to deal with, I think, are the injustices in the world, whether it's me supporting the OSPCA because I really care about animal welfare, or whether it's me for the last 40 years supporting a Child Through World Vision, or whether it's me being involved in politics or in the board to support my daughter. Whatever I have done, I've had to be the warrior. So my purpose is I am a warrior.
Yeah. And you really are a warrior fighting to right injustices, for a warrior towards making things better. Like that's how I see it, right? It's like, so you are like, you're battling the good fight, you know,
Exactly.
and you don't pick straw windmills, you know, it's not like you're Don Quixote imagining. It's like, no, you are Don Quixote who sees that this is a dragon, and you take them on. You're not. It's one thing about you that I've always admired is you always just like you speak it, and you stand up, and you just take things on. And
Well, I try to, and I try to be. So one of my things was one of my what do you call them? Not purpose, but my statement to myself was to be utterly fearless. And I'm not utterly fearless. I'm terrified of mice. I'm terrified of bats. You know.
like we're not supposed to be without fears, right?
Yeah.
You're not brave if you're not afraid of something. You don't
No,
have courage if you're not afraid of something, right? It's like
no,
the action of going forward in spite of it.
yeah.
And I think that that's like purpose, you know, when we're thinking, okay, well, if I don't have a purpose, what are I just floating along? Am I you know, am I adrift? And I think a lot of women, when we get to our age, we go, okay, as you did, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this, and now what? And sometimes it's just that wide open, and it overwhelms us, as opposed to we can also go, okay, what are things that I care about? What are things that I would like to do? And sometimes it's just having fun and relaxing. I'm still getting used to this retirement thing from doing readings and healings and all that work, you know. And so for me, sometimes just to take an afternoon and sit in the sun or read a book, it's still huge. So for me, part of the purpose is to find harmony, find relaxation, and have fun. So that you know, purpose is also what are we wanting to accomplish, but sometimes it's also being, right? Like, how are we being?
And I think that's when you phrased it that way, that was what really made me realize that I have to be less results oriented in terms of purpose and more in the being, as you said. And it's kind of interesting when it comes to menopause and the change that I went through, because that sort of coincided with going through, you know, the whole menopausal, perimenopausal experience. Because this type of change, which is a change, because women have more specific changes, you know, we in terms of puberty, when we start our periods and so on and so forth, through the childbearing years and so on and so forth. It often occurs at the same time as a so-called midlife crisis. But maybe the midlife crisis really isn't a crisis. Maybe it's a transition to becoming more authentic with ourselves, to ourselves, because we seek meaning to validate our worth, but we also ignite a new purpose to guide us and give us energy and joy. And that is one of the reasons that you want a purpose. And you talked about floating. Like, do you want to float through life? And one of my favorite sayings, and I have a lot of sayings, you're going to hear them all the time, is there are people who make things happen, there are people who watch things happen, and there are people who wondered what happened. So like, who are you in there? And you know, it's not vanity that makes me want to make things happen, but it's a very strong internal locus of control that says, I'm in charge of my life. I'm responsible for my life. I am not floating around in my life.
And it's okay sometimes to float. Like, I think that's really important, because when you said when you need that quiet time to think and to let things sort through, I think we need that. And I think that this stage of life, we need to take that time and go, okay, now who am I going to be? And women do that. We do it without thinking. We do it, you know, we do it without thinking. It's something that comes up for us, right? Because stages of life, chapters close, and then it's like, so now what? And sometimes we just get caught up in, oh, I'll just go with the flow, or and I think the other thing is sometimes we're tired and we need to go, okay, I'm tired, I need to regroup, and while I'm regrouping, what would I like to do?
But see, the regrouping is the transition. It is the journey to the next stage. It's kind of like the internal homework that you have to do to evolve into the next stage. And you're right about the fatigue. We get tired. I get tired. I get beat down so low, and I always manage to regroup. And there's There's another saying, I think it's a Japanese one, about fall down 99 times, get up 100, and so the point is that you have to be resilient, but you are allowed to have those quiet times, those vulnerable times, those times when you are weak, when you have to draw on the strength of others. That's good, because that's
Yeah.
part of the whole transition and part of the whole evolution of your spirit and your purpose.
Have you seen the documentary about Celine Dion? It's about her
No,
going through stiff person syndrome.
I saw the one, it was the CBC one, but not the bigger one. It was
So
the CBC.
I highly recommend it, because here's a woman who is obviously a crone. She is who she is. She's very brave in that she lets cameras follow her through it all, through all sorts of things. And but there's, at the end, she says, towards the end, and I don't think I'm going to be a spoiler here, she says, if I can't run, I will walk. If I can't walk, I will crawl. If I can't crawl, I am still here. And it's like, whoa. So, and I think we do that. We women, it's like, and men too. Okay. But especially we are not going to give up, right? We always want to strive. Because I think if you stop having something that you're reaching for or something you're moving towards, I think we get like mentally flabby, maybe. Like it's just not.
When
Our
you stop
potential.
thinking, you stop being introspective, and you stop looking at the world. Yeah, we get caught up in the minutiae of our daily lives, and we don't kind of look for a higher purpose in ourselves. So we're not really talking about, how am I going to put it here? When we're talking about purpose, we're because there's ways to find joy in all kinds of things. That's not really what we're talking about. We're
No.
talking about that inner fire, that inner thing.
Yeah. It's what moves you forward, I think. Like joy is in the moment, but what's moving you forward, what's driving you forward, it's just like, what's the quote? Oh, that a man's reach should out a man's reach should be beyond his grasp, else what's a heaven for? That's poorly quoted, but it's Ulysses, right? Odysseus. So it's like, yes, that my reach, my grasp isn't where my reach is, but that's where we're heading. We're wanting to move forward, and it's and I think purpose also is it always to help others? Because I'm
No.
trying to think about it. Well, think about it though. Is there not an element of making a change and making a difference?
Yeah, there is. I think that can be inherent in the general description of it. So if I'm a warrior, for example, I'm defending myself, but I'm defending everybody else, for example, or I'm saving myself, or I'm saving everybody else, for example. I think it's, I think you have to have something. You have to have something to focus on, like you said, that pulls you ahead, because if not, you're going to get to the end of your life going, what the hell just happened? You know?
We may find that anyway, but yes,
but
I think that then you can go, yes, oh, I did something, I made a difference here, I made a difference there.
yes.
And I mean, I think that's whether we're making a difference. You know the story about the guy walking down the beach and there's all the starfish and he's picking one up and throwing one in and picking one up and throwing one in, and the other person comes along and says, what do you think you're doing? You think you're making a difference to all these starfish? And the guy picks one up, throws it in, and says, I made a difference to that one. So whether we're making little differences in our day-to-day lives, whether we're smiling at the grocery clerk, whether we are supporting a child in a third world, whether we are taking on something we feel that is an injustice, whether we are helping people through work, right? Like, the work that I did for the longest time, which I loved, was working as a psychic medium and an energy healer. And that, where you can see that you're making a difference. In fact, one of my friends said to me one time, because I was getting ill and I really needed to stop working. And she said, how many people do you need to help before you quit? Before it's enough? How many before it's enough? I was like, ooh, I hadn't thought of it that way. But now I can do something in a different way, because I don't think I would ever not want to be moving forward and trying to make the world a better place. Oh, your dog just came in and sat down behind you.
Was Daisy. My older dog.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, sometimes we fight the impossible fight. And, a perfect example of this is my daughter, Bergen, who has something called Rett syndrome, which you should look it up. It's kind of a bizarre disease. In fact, or disorder, it only affects girls. So how appropriate are we? But one of the things that 50% of the girls never start walking, and it only affects girls, as I said. So Bergen was not spontaneously walking. So I decided she was going to walk. And I stood her up, and she'd slide down the wall, and I'd stand her up again. And we used cart, we did this, we did all these different things. And my mother would say, like, why are you doing that? That's just pointless. She's never going to walk. Well, one day she took 6 steps, and then she took a few more. And by the age of 2, she was walking. And rec girls walk very differently. They have a gait that's called an elephant gait. They walk through their hips. And so Bergen's going to be 44 in September. She's still walking. Most of the girls don't walk. She has very severe scoliosis. So she's leaning forward, but she's still walking. And a lot of the girls would never walked. And their parents would say to me, well, she didn't start. And I'm like, you have to show her. I would take Bergen's tiny little feet and I would move them, and modeling the behavior for the walking. And they didn't do it. Those girls never walked. So sometimes when we fight the impossible fight, or what seems like the impossible fight, or whatever it is we are doing, whether it is being the bearer of light, and you have been the bearer of light for me in many, many ways. And I don't want to start crying because of that, but you have. We in doing what we do on our purpose, we are modeling behavior for other people. We're saying, yes, you can do this. You can try this. You can follow this path. It may seem impossible. Maybe it's not, but let's take the journey. Take the journey.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna read a wonderful quote here, also from the book, which kind of comes into this, and it says, we each have our own exceptional gifts and singular vision, and now's the time to uncover them, to fulfill the potential that's been developing throughout our many years on this beautiful animate earth, the ultimate revelation of who we truly are and always were meant to be. The task here reminds me of a line attributed to Michelangelo. I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. The essence of a rich and meaningful elderhood is finally to set our inner angel free. So whatever that purpose is for you, whether it's a big one or a little one, because we don't all have to make front page headlines. That's not the point here. The point is that you're giving meaning and value to yourself. And in doing so, you give people permission to do the same.
Yeah. So take a little moment and think about what your own purpose is. And I mean, some of you will know right away, and others maybe go, And if it's an old purpose you haven't looked at for a while, is that still what leads you forward? Is that still what I always say, what makes my heart sing, right? What makes your heart sing? And to sort of to try to follow that. Yeah, right. So I wanted to, did you have anything else around that?
No, other than to say that in this post-menopausal time in our lives, we can experience a creative burst. We can evolve into who we were supposed to be all along. So that harkens back to what you said about the inner child, your older visions, because that's often where your reality lies, is in who you were as a child, and the things that you dreamed about are things that you can now loop back in your life. And maybe when you were little, you wanted to be a writer and that didn't happen. Maybe now's the time for you to start writing, or writing music, or singing, or riding a bike, or flying a balloon, whatever it is, these
So
things,
funny.
you know.
That was something I often would say to clients. I would say, okay, so what makes you happy? What's fun for you to do? And so many people are so up to their eyebrows in work and family and commitments. They're like, I don't even know. I don't even know. And I'm like, well, what might be fun to do? I can't even imagine. And I would say, okay, what did you used to do for fun when you were a little kid? Oh, I used to do this and this and this. It's like, okay, maybe is there one of those you could try now? Well, I might feel kind of stupid. Yeah, but would it be fun? Maybe, right? And so that's how you can open that up again. You can open that up
Yes.
again. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that connects back again, that takes you that joy, it takes you full circle. It helps you connect with your purpose and finding out what that thing is that is going to bring meaning to this point in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that is important to me is sharing information when I find out. And because I'm going to tell you about what happened with my ear. I woke up deaf in one ear a few days ago. And so it turns out you can actually, it's a thing, waking up deaf in one ear. And what most people do is they go, it's probably wax, it's probably this or that. And I just thought, oh, I wonder if anyone has ever had this before. And I Googled Google, waking up deaf, and it's like in one ear, and there's all this stuff. So I didn't let Dr. Google take over. I phoned telehealth, who told me to get right to the doctor, because apparently it could be a few things. But all of them, if not treated fairly soon, can lead to permanent deafness. So if you ever have that happen, don't say to yourself, oh, I've got water in my ear. Oh, I got wax in my ear. If you can't hear, because the audiologist said to me, people come and they say, yeah, I can't hear out of this ear. And I'll say, oh, so when did this start? They'll say, oh, 3 weeks ago. I think it's wax. She said, it's never wax. So it's like, if it lasts, right? But at that point, she's like, it's so frustrating for her as an audiologist, because there's nothing at that point that can often be done. So just in case this happens, it's like, I'm one of those people that when something happens, I tend to share it, because so many times people go, oh, I'm so glad you told me that, or I wish I'd known that. And so anyway, so that's why I'm expecting the phone call from the ENT specialist. So, but I can hear again, but now I've got ringing, and we'll figure it out, right?
You'll get, or tinnitus or tinnitus, it depends on how you want to pronounce it. It is
I've heard
annoying.
both, and I'm told both are correct.
I've had it for years. Like when it first started, I was telling Peggy that I thought my refrigerator was going to blow up, and I kept putting my ear up to the refrigerator, and then I realized with horror that it was actually my
It
ear.
was your ear. Well, and what's funny too is I've got this pitch in my ear, and so of course I'm like, oh, that sounds like a C. So of course I have to go to the piano and see if I'm correct with what pitch it is. and, and it is a C. I've got a C.
That is too funny. Oh my God. It is.
So I wonder what pitch yours is, Leea.
Tone deaf. Completely tone deaf. So I don't know what it is, but it's annoying. And most of the time I just ignore it. But you know, that now when you're making me think about it, I'm like, I'm hearing this buzzing, and it's
I know, right? It's like, it's one of those, and so many people have these things, and it's like, you know, all these little things that we share. The other one I heard about this week, here's a cool one. I've heard about it in the last 2 days from 2 different people it has happened to that I know. You suddenly, they started like thinking it was 2 months before, and they couldn't remember all sorts of stuff. And so, but they didn't have, you know, they did all the stroke. Are you having a stroke? You know, didn't have that, but couldn't remember. Thought it was November when it was February. Couldn't remember birthday. Couldn't remember all sorts of things. And there's a thing called global transient amnesia, or transient global amnesia. And apparently it sort of hits you, and then it disappears, and it can show in your brain with MRIs. And it's it's like one of those fickle finger things. So it's weird that I heard about it 2 times in like 2-3 days.
Yeah. Is that age related or episodic or related to anything?
It doesn't seem to be related to anything. The 2 people that I know it happened to were both men in our 40s, 50s. So, but I haven't looked it up to see if that's a thing, but I know it was like, my friend told me, no, they said it can just happen, probably won't happen again, doesn't seem to be connected with anything.
Yeah, that is so strange.
Weird, right? I just think
The
these
human
things.
body does, the human body is just, it's magnificent when it works, and then it's bizarre when it doesn't. So
But it's like it's we just have to sort of like try to do the best we can for our health, right? Oh, that's a whole other topic. We're not going to go into that today. We've kind of come to our time that we try to stay to. So
you're the timekeeper because I am completely lost. I've completely lost time. No idea what time it is or how long we've been talking, but yeah.
yeah, no, fortunately I have a little clock in the bottom of my screen. So I go, oh, it's like, so
Excellent.
thank you guys for tuning in. And
so
I hope
much.
that you've enjoyed our conversation today. And please do like and subscribe to our YouTube podcast channel thing.
And
Wives
tell
and
your
Wicked Crones.
friends and family to listen
Yes.
in. And always, if you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like us to talk about or investigate, because we are going to do some investigation into things, certainly let us know, because we are more than happy to talk about absolutely anything that is of importance to you.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you soon, Leah. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you. Bye.